The modern world runs on free code. Written by March 2024. A Microsoft engineer named Andres Freund is running some routine tests when he notices something annoying. His login is slow. Not minutes slow, half a second slow. The kind of delay you and I would never notice in 1,000 years. But Freund is the kind of person who gets bothered by half a second. So he starts digging, and buried inside a tiny, obscure piece of software, a compression tool that ships with almost every Linux system on Earth, he finds something that should not exist: a secret door. Placed there deliberately by someone who had spent nearly 3 years building it. Patiently, invisibly. A door that would have handed its owner access to millions of servers across the planet. Banks, hospitals, power grids, government systems. Security experts would call it the closest the internet has ever come to a doomsday scenario. But here's the part nobody could believe. This critical piece of global infrastructure, code the entire modern world depends on, was maintained by one man, an unpaid volunteer, working nights and weekends, for 15 years, for free. If this code is so valuable, why is it free? Who actually writes it? And who pays the price when it breaks? To see this hidden economy, just watch the first hour of your own day. This morning, your phone woke you up. If it's an Android, the entire system is built on a free piece of software called Linux. You bought a coffee. That payment bounced through bank servers, running Linux. You checked Instagram, watched YouTube, sent an email, delivered to you by web servers running free code, written by volunteers. Free software is inside hospital machines, car dashboards, smart TVs, the laptops on the International Space Station. Even the rockets SpaceX launches into orbit run Linux. Now, here's the strange part. Imagine Coca-Cola published its secret formula tomorrow and said, anyone can make Coke, change the recipe, sell it, no permission needed, no charge, forever. It would be corporate suicide. But in software, that's completely normal. It's called open source, code whose recipe is public. Anyone can read it, copy it, build on it, sell products with it. And the modern world quietly decided to build basically everything on top of it. When researchers scanned today's software, they found open source inside 97% of it. The apps on your phone are mostly free code with a logo on top. So a team at Harvard asked a question economists had been avoiding for decades. If open source vanished tonight, and every company had to rebuild the code they depend on from scratch, the bill would come to $8.8 trillion. Roughly the GDP of Japan and Germany combined. Without it, companies would spend 3.5 times more on software than they do today. No headquarters, no CEO, no sales team, nobody owns it, and the people who actually build it, most have never been paid a single cent for it. Which makes no sense. Why would some of the smartest engineers on the planet hand out trillion-dollar work for free? To answer that, we need to go back to 1991, to a student dorm room in Helsinki, Finland. A 21-year-old student in Helsinki named Linus Torvalds posts a message to an internet forum. He's been building his own operating system, and he describes it like this. Then he does something no company would ever do. He gives the code away and asks strangers to help. And strangers start showing up. One sends a bug fix, another adds a feature. Torvalds keeps the best pieces and posts new versions. No office, no salaries, no business plan, just thousands of people scratching their own itch. That hobby was Linux. Today, it runs most of the internet. A programmer named Eric Raymond watched this happen and gave the two worlds names. The old way, he called the cathedral. Closed, secretive, corporate. This new chaos of volunteers, he called the bazaar. And the bazaar had a superpower, summed up in one famous line. When thousands of people can read the recipe, mistakes get found fast. But hold on, why would anyone do serious work for free? It turns out the bazaar pays, just not in money. It pays in reputation. In this world, your public code is your resume. And a strong open source track record gets you the interview at the world's top tech companies. And then, the corporations noticed. And one by one, they figured out how to turn free into billions. Red Hat gave Linux away and sold corporations something they'll always pay for. Someone to call when it breaks. Support, certification, insurance. IBM eventually bought Red Hat for $34 billion. At the time, the largest software acquisition in history for a company whose product is free. Google took Linux, wrapped it into Android, and handed it to every phone maker on Earth, free. Not out of kindness. Every one of those 3.9 billion devices funnels you into Google Search, Google Ads, Google's App Store. Amazon found the sweetest deal of all. Take popular open source software, host it on AWS servers, and charge companies rent to use it. Others write the code. Amazon sells access to it. And Microsoft? In 2001, its CEO called Linux a cancer. 17 years later, Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for GitHub, the home of open source itself. So this is the machine. Developers get reputation and joy. Corporations get trillion-dollar infrastructure without paying for it. You get cheaper products. Everybody wins. Except, building something new is the fun part. But someone has to keep it alive for years, fixing bugs at midnight, patching security holes, answering complaints from companies that never paid a cent. All this critical code. Who exactly is maintaining it? In 2020, a webcomic called XKCD published a drawing that shows a giant, teetering tower of blocks labeled All Modern Digital Infrastructure. And near the bottom, holding up the entire structure, one tiny, load-bearing block. Here's what the data actually says. Researchers studied the most used open source projects in the world and found that in 17% of them, one single person writes over 80% of the code. In 40%, just one or two people. The thousands of eyeballs? For most of the internet's foundations, they don't exist. And when one of those people has a bad day, you feel it. Let me show you. 2016. A developer named Azar Koçulu gets an email from lawyers. A messaging company called Kik wants his package name on the code registry NPM. Azar says no. So NPM takes the name and hands it over anyway. Azar, furious, pulls all of his code off the platform. All 273 packages. One of them is called LeftPad. It's 11 lines long. It adds spaces to the left side of text. That's all it does. Within minutes, builds start failing at Meta, PayPal, Netflix, Spotify. Thousands of projects dead because 11 lines written by one man vanished. The panic is so severe that NPM does something it had never done before. It forcibly restores his code against the author's will. December 2021. A flaw is discovered in Log4j, a logging tool sitting inside hundreds of millions of devices. Within days, hackers are hammering it up to 1 million times per hour, and nearly half of all corporate networks on Earth get probed. Governments hold emergency briefings. And the team responsible for defending this critical piece of the internet? 16 volunteers, unpaid, patching through sleepless nights while angry companies demand answers. One of them finally snaps online. Nothing is stopping people from bashing us for work we aren't paid for. Back in 2014, the Heartbleed bug exposed the encryption guarding 2/3 of the web. The software behind it, OpenSSL, protected trillions of dollars in global commerce. Its total funding? About $2,000 a year, in donations. The tech giants using it for free had a combined value of trillions. They panicked and finally threw in a few million, the way you'd tip a waiter who just saved your life. By 2022, some maintainers had had enough. Merrick Squires, whose free libraries had been downloaded over 3 billion times, posted a warning to the corporations using his work. Send me a 6-figure yearly contract, or fork the project. Nobody paid. So one January morning, he rigged his own code to print garbage in an infinite loop, instantly breaking thousands of applications. His punishment? GitHub suspended his account for sabotaging the free code he himself wrote. So, the weakest point in the world's digital infrastructure isn't in the code at all. It's the exhausted human being behind it. and all you have to do is break the humor. Finland. Quiet programmer named Lasse Colin. Since 2009, he has maintained a small compression tool called XZ Utils. You've never heard of it, but it ships inside almost every Linux system on Earth, which means it sits inside the servers of banks, airlines, hospitals, governments. One tool holding up the tower, maintained by one man for free for 15 years. The man in Nebraska is real. He just lives in Finland. Now, here's how a project like XZ actually works. Anyone on Earth can join the project's public mailing list, suggest a fix, send in a patch. Trust is earned one contribution at a time. So in October 2021, a polite new volunteer shows up offering to help. Giatan. No photo, no real history, no verifiable identity, just code. And the code is good. Genuinely useful fixes. Slowly, Giatan becomes a trusted pair of hands. And then the pressure starts. On that same mailing list, new strangers appear. They complain the project is dying, that Colin is too slow. But listen to what they're actually demanding. They're not asking him to work harder, they're telling him to hand the project to someone else. And what a coincidence. There's a helpful volunteer standing right there. Under the pressure, Colin finally writes something painfully honest. I haven't lost interest, but my ability to care is quite limited, mainly due to long-term mental health issues. And then he adds the sentence this entire film has been about. This is an unpaid hobby project. The world's infrastructure, resting on an unpaid, burned-out volunteer. The attackers knew it. In fact, they were counting on it. Because here's the thing about Jigar Kumar and Dennis Enns. Those accounts existed only to send those messages. Then they vanished, forever. The pressure campaign was fake, manufactured, a psychological operation with one goal: make the tired man hand over the keys to the only person offering to help. And it worked. Colin gives Giatan maintainer access. For the next 2 years, Giatan does nothing suspicious. Hundreds of legitimate improvements, building trust, commit by commit. Then, buried inside 2 innocent-looking test files, Giatan plants the backdoor, a master key, granting its owner secret access to any infected server on the planet. And then Giatan starts pushing, personally lobbying the big Linux distributions. It works its way into the beta versions of the world's biggest systems. Debian, Fedora. One man notices. Andres Freund was just running tests, and his login was half a second slow. His email detonates across the industry. 2 years before the attack, Germany had already launched a sovereign tech fund, paying the maintainers of critical code. And after XZ, the industry finally moved. GitHub opened a secure open source fund. Big tech companies put money behind maintainer security. Foundations wrote checks. It sounds like a happy ending until you look at the numbers. GitHub's fund, $1.25 million. The industry's flagship security initiative, $6 million handed out in a year. The latest joint pledge, $12.5 million, against an ecosystem worth $8.8 trillion. So, why do the people writing this code never ask for a single cent? The moment code costs money, it stops spreading, and everyone in the system knows it. Today, Lasse Colin still maintains XZ Utils. And beneath the apps you'll open tonight, thousands of other towers balance on thousands of other tiny blocks, held up by people whose names you will never know.